Good morning, everyone. Hi. I'm so sorry. This is I'm actually feeling kind of nervous. So please bear with me with the session. Again, I'm so thankful for having you guys in here. It was such an honor to host this event with you in it. And of course, for Dr. Raqib filling in as the host, it is more than an honor. And hopefully we have a smooth sailing event for today. So first things first, I would like to invite the head of the LPDP Monash Community Student Association, um, Pak Bukhari. The floor is yours.
Hi everyone. Good morning. Welcome. All right. So sleepy actually. No. 47 people on Zoom. Wow, it's wonderful, isn't it? Thank you very much for coming today. Especially Dr. Rakib. Such an honor. Actually, I would like to start with a piece of paper. It's very special paper because it's from Suchi. So, um, why I use this paper? Because the topic today is beyond of my knowledge. Really, it's really I don't know about the topic because it's very different with my studies at public policy. But it's a very interesting topic, I guess. So I asked Suchi to brief me about what's about the topic. So she gave me like the objective of the topic today. The first, oh, I should read it. Right? So the topic is the objective is we need to be aware of the story behind the academic writing, since usually it use English, right? And then the second is, as the main goals of the academic writing is to share knowledge. It should not only be done in English, it can be done in other languages. For example, our native languages also. And then the last is, by doing so, the knowledge is more accessible for everybody. So it's wonderful, really wonderful. And now I know about that. So, guys, I really encourage all of you. Feel free to enjoy the discussion. And of course, I really believe in Mr. Rakib. Don't hesitate, ask question to him. Yeah, he will answer all the question, I hope. And I believe it. And for Dr. Rakib, on behalf of our community, I'd like to extend my warm welcome. Yeah, one more time, and thank you for your time, for having with us today. And we are so grateful to have you here. And thank you, everyone. Burung Irian, burung cendrawasih. Cukup sekian dan terima kasih. Enjoy!
Okay. Thank you, Palura, for the warm welcome. It was a very Indonesian welcome one because it has pantun, which I would like to ask for the audience to remember about pantun because it will be connected. It will be very relevant to our session for today. So before we go into the material, I would like for you guys to have a group photo session. I suppose we can do it in here. So please feel free to come to stand up. Please stand up. So we can take a group photo very quickly. Yeah, this is the banner. It was provided by yeah, Sir John. Was it? Okay, so please, everyone, you can stand in here to have a group photo. I suppose Rista would help in taking one. Okay, so So before we begin our session for today, can someone enlighten me? What are we going to discuss for today? Anyone? Any guesses? Yes, please. Yeah. Please, you can tell us our name. Don't forget also your credit card number, perhaps.
Assalamualaikum. Selamat pagi semua. My name is Rahmat Zakaria Ansar. I am from Indonesia, especially from Aceh province. I think that the purpose of our seminar today would to be about how we deal with the writing and also to have some tips about how to write academical writing strategically or randomly or something like that. Thank you.
Okay. Awesome. Please give applause for Mr. Thank you so much. Yeah. So I'm so sorry for springing this on you suddenly. It's just my teacher side. I usually begin the session by asking my students, what are we going to discuss today? I know that what we are going to discuss for today, just for a warming up. So before we go further into the material, I would like to introduce our one and only Dr. Raqib Chowdhury. Please. Okay, so Bonita, if you please be so kindly to to tell us a little bit about him, to show us about his okay, so Dr. Raqib, how do I pronounce your surname? Chowdhury? Chowdhury? Okay. So he is one of my professor last semester, and from his class, I realized that English is not just a language that you can learn, but there is some implication that I believe that you guys need to know, that hopefully in the future you can help us educate the younger generation to be more aware of English and its history. So as you can see, Dr. Raqib is actually very qualified. So Dr. Raqib, what is your position in here? You're a postgraduate student?
That's right, yeah. So like most of you guys here, I came in here as an international student. I did my master's, then I did my PhD, same faculty, and now I'm a senior lecturer in the School of Education,
Yeah.
Faculty of Education.
So you're a postgraduate student?
Yes. I have
Professor.
been, yeah.
Professor, yeah. No, so not just postgraduate student, but also the teacher. Okay, so we are just going to begin with our material for today. But before that, Raqib, could you please tell us a little bit about yourself? Don't hesitate to be more personal, just like maybe your mother's maiden name, your first pet's name.
Date of birth,
Yeah, please.
how old I am, all of this. All right, okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Selamat pagi, everyone. I'm very glad to be here, very excited to be here. So my name is Raqib, and some of you will have seen me in your class. I can see Gamal over there, and PhD students. Where is Shihab? Shihab is here, and of course, Suchi is here. I've got Atab and Hasna and others from my class. But those of you who don't know me, I'm a lecturer in the Faculty of Education. And my area is languages education, including TESOL, which is teaching English to speakers of other languages. I know that those of you who are here and those who are online, which camera are we focusing on?
That one.
I should face that one, all right?
Yes.
Hi, guys, online guys. I know some of you are not from the Faculty of Education. Today's presentation is not really about education or academic writing in education. It's just about good academic writing. So if you're from other faculties or other schools, I'm sure you will probably find it helpful as well. So very glad to be here. I came in here in this faculty in 2000 as an international student from Bangladesh. That's where I'm originally from. So I've been in this faculty for 25 years. As a master's student, as a PhD student, and then as an academic. So in many ways, I can relate to your experiences of writing for your assignments and all of that in an Australian university, coming from a different country, different culture, maybe different writing style. So I can relate to that. So it's my great pleasure to be here to talk to international students from Indonesia, which is my favorite country. Many of you already know that. And talk to you about something that is fundamental to our experience as students here, which is academic writing. So regardless of what faculty you're from, you have to write academically. And as Bukhari said, it's not really about just writing in English, it's really good writing, which can be done in any kind of languages. And Zakaria, you're right. It's about the strategies, it's about the tips, it's about how to improve our writing, you know, our criticality. I'll talk about criticality a little bit, things like that. So thank you. Great to be here.
All right. So, just a reminder for everyone in here that the session, because it's called as interactive discussion, feel free that if you have any question in the middle of the session to raise your hand, not your foot, raise your hand, and then state your real name, not your stage name. Okay? Yeah. So please, just your real name.
That applies to online participants as well.
Yeah.
They can use their mic.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, if you have any question, but if you guys are feeling like shy, that you want to be mysterious, you can just drop the questions in the chat box. You are more than welcome to do so.
But there's no food for online participants, right?
They have in their home.
They do? Yeah, okay. Well, we've got a lot of food in the room, but sorry, guys, those of you who are online,
Yeah,
taste of it.
but at least they can get cozy in their space. That's a plus, definitely. Okay, so Rakib, while Bonita is actually fetching the material for today, can I ask you some of the a basic question, because the session is about academic writing, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So I was wondering, like, what is actually the difference between writing? At the end of the day, it's just we're putting words. And how is it different from academic writing and just writing?
Yeah, that's a very good question. You know, there is no one type or one definition of academic writing. If you ask someone who's doing a PhD like Shihab will say that, you know, the way he writes now is very different from 2 years ago when he started his PhD. And then that again is very different from when he did his master's in Makassar, and then earlier, you know, undergraduate, and then high school, primary school. It's all different. It's all academic writing, but it's all very different. And I'm not just talking about how to learn how to use APA citations and all of that, but what we refer to as the register or the discourse of academic writing can be very different. Not to mention the different genres which are specific to disciplines. So if there is anyone from hard sciences or STEM sciences here, from business or engineering, you would be expected to write differently from us in the social sciences. Education is in social sciences. So these are the differences in language. No, we are not talking about Bahasa Indonesia and English. Even if you think about one single language, English, there are languages within languages. And I also should mention that the title for today's presentation is from Suchi, it's not from me. And I loved it. When she proposed it, I said, wow, that's it. Because the subtitle is The Language Within. And that's what we're going to look at today. So what are the different languages within the same language when it comes to academic writing? So that's what we can say languages within refers to, right? Yeah.
Awesome. So yeah, so academic writing is definitely is more than just a writing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a way of thinking.
Uh-huh.
It's a way of processing ideas in your head and then putting it down in words and text so that it's clear to the audience. And it also depends on if the audience is your lecturer, if the audience is readers, if you're writing a journal article, or someone else from your academic community, depends on that as well.
Okay, so also, Rakib, because we have PhD students in here, I mean, I would like to invite you guys that if you have any insights about this, you are more than welcome to voice out your experience or something similar to that, because after all, this is an interactive discussion, so we are going to make it as lively as possible. Thank you so much. Okay, so still speaking about the academic writing. I realized that there are actually so many journal publication To name some, we have Taylor and Francis. We have like ProQuest and everything. Can you tell us, Rakib, maybe like the differences among those publication? Is there any significant difference that we need to pay attention to?
I think from publisher to publisher and from journal to journal, as far as academic writing is concerned, the expectations are very, very similar. The only differences could be they could be a particular journal that prefers a different referencing style, such as Chicago or MLA rather than APA. So these are different, but in terms of grammar, in terms of mechanics, in terms of structure, they are more or less the same. And in my presentation today, we will critique some of these expectations. Some of these norms are set by the West, and I'm a decolonial thinker, I'm a decolonial theorist, a decolonial researcher. So I look at it from a different lens where I question the standards set by so-called high-ranked journals and the question of why we should subscribe to them at the cost of sacrificing our own voice. And by our own voice, I mean, our Asian voice, our Indonesian voice, our voice as a Muslim, our voice as a female. We just have to subscribe to those norms set up by high-ranked journals. And thereby we sacrifice our own voices. So I'll be talking a little bit about that as well, Suchi.
Thank you so much, Rakib. Okay, so that would be actually a little bit of spoiler from him that we are going to talk about the burden, both in linguistic and the mental burden when we are writing an academic paper in a foreign language. And we're also going to talk about the decolonization, which is actually a contemporary issue.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
At least in Australia, it is. Yeah.
Yeah. It is a very interesting. I suppose you guys see it everywhere, but you might not realize that is actually the form of decolonization. Okay, so Rakib, can you so sorry. Can you tell us before we are writing a paper? Of course, we need to determine what kind of a topic that we are going to choose, right? I was wondering if I were to write an academic paper, which one should I choose? The one that is trending or the one that I personally am interested in that?
Yeah. That's another good question. So by trending, you probably refer to a journal that is high ranked and that is very widely cited.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, journals that more align with your interests and published articles that you're interested in. It's very difficult. If you are new to publishing, you have to choose between a high-ranking journal where it not only takes longer to get published, but it's more competitive in terms of getting selected even for peer review, let alone publishing. And then choosing a journal which is not high ranked, which is perhaps not even Scopus indexed, but has a high and fast turnaround rate, so you can get published quickly. So for the first couple of your publications, maybe not high ranked, but at least you get published. And that way you establish yourself as a published author. And then as time goes by, you become more selective and you choose higher ranking journals. You gain your confidence and then you start writing at that level. And then you don't look back and say, no, from now on, I'll just keep on pushing harder and going for higher ranked journals. So it's kind of a balance between both. But at the beginning, it's not bad to be very ambitious. It's good to aim high from the beginning, but we also need to be practical. So don't aim too high at the beginning, but of course, we have to go higher and higher as we go forward.
Okay, so I believe that is enough for the warming up, but I would like to remind Rakib that 15 minutes before our session ends, I would inform you about that.
Yep.
And also for the audience, both in the person and also online, feel free to drop the questions. Do not be shy, because we are having a discussion right now. Okay, so Rakib, I would let you to lead the floor. Everything is yours.
All right, thank you very much. And just once again, good morning, everyone, including those who are online. My name is Raqib. I'll be doing this presentation. We'll have 15 to 20 minutes at the end, Suchi, for Q&A. But as Suchi said, this is meant to be an interactive discussion, right? That's what it was called. So I don't want to mislead you by by just talking and not giving you a chance to talk and just waiting for you to ask me questions at the end. So I have some slides. I'll talk through them. I'll ask you some questions, but feel free, just like Zakaria, to jump up and ask me questions at any time. If you are online, Bonita's over there. She's probably looking at the chat box. Please feel free to ask questions. But before I get started, just a couple of things. Bonita, I think I need you to click on that so that this can be activated, and then I can use the, just a single, yeah, that's fine. Let me see. Yeah, now it's working. Yeah, it's okay. So first of all, thank you, Suchi, for inviting me. Suchi has been very persistent. She has been pushing me for the last 2 months since the beginning of semester 1. You must do a workshop for us. Please do that. Please do that. And I kept on avoiding her until I couldn't anymore. But I'm just joking. I was actually overseas a couple of times. And Suchi, originally we were supposed to have done this in the first week of July. It didn't work.
Yes.
Then we were supposed to do it in orientation week, which is a couple of weeks ago. That didn't work either.
Yeah,
But
because of your schedule,
Yeah.
because of your staging and everything.
yeah, that's right. But you didn't give up on me. So that's so thank you, Suchi. Suchi was in my class last semester. This semester, she decided not to be in my class anymore. She's had enough of me.
Yes.
But Suchi is the reason why we are having this. So thank you, Suchi. I'd also like to thank the sponsor LPDP, and we have Bukhari, who's the president of the LPDP Students Association here. This is not my first LPDP presentation. I had one a long time ago, 2018 or 2019, I think. That was also hosted by LPDP. But Bukhari, thank you so much for your warm welcome. I feel really good to be here. There's plenty of food. So if I get hungry, I can take a break. But the fact that on a Friday morning, you've made time to come and talk to me, including those of you online, thank you very much to be here. I know some of you have classes at 10:30, at 11, so feel free to leave. I won't be offended. Hasna, I know you have a class at 11. Not a problem. Okay, so that's the thank you here. And secondly, there is a disclaimer about my presentation today. This is a disclaimer of what the seminar, what the talk, the presentation is not about. So I'm not going to talk about how to write topic sentences or proper paragraphs, or how to improve your grammar, or how to write in academic register. This is not a workshop, right?
How to get an HD?
Yeah, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, very important. That's actually the most important thing. We don't care if we get an HD, we don't care about anything else. All right.
HD for life.
HD for life, yeah. So these are some of the mechanics of writing. So this is not a workshop where I make you do activities and show you how to write, you know, like teal paragraphs and topic sentences, transitions, advanced organizers. This presentation is not about any of these things. It's more about giving you a perspective, a way of thinking. I think you call it cara berpikir, a way of thinking.
Do you know that Raqib is actually a part of Indonesian?
A little bit, yeah, in my heart, yeah, darah Indonesia. Yeah. I feel very much at home among you guys here and those who are online. Okay, so the presentation is really about a way of thinking, and regardless of which faculty you're from, you might not be from education, that's okay. It will probably help you change your way of thinking when you write. That's what it is about. It's not about how to write a topic sentence, how to write an argumentative essay, all right? Now, with that gone, let's take a look at these 3 images. What you're looking at is 3 circles. And I'm calling this is the truth, but there is no one truth. There are 3 truths here, okay? You're looking at the same 3 circles from 3 perspectives. Do you get that? So on the left, you're looking from the top, and then in the middle, you're looking from kind of the side, but on top. And then if you switch it over, flip it over, look from the side, you're looking at these 3, what looks like 3 different lengths, lines. It's the same thing. So the point here is that you're looking at the same thing, but you are seeing different things just because your perspective is different. So when we talk about truth, we actually mean reality, or we mean something that is objective, something that is out there, okay? But just because something is out there, reality, 100% reality, this is not an optical illusion. Doesn't mean that we all see it or we talk about it or we write about it in the same way. It would depend on your perspective, okay? But it's the same thing. So just keep that in mind as a metaphor of the value of perspective in terms of reporting or writing about truth or realities. Very different, okay? So that's the first thing. Just keep that in mind. It's a metaphor. Now I'll give you two pieces of texts and I'll ask you to see the difference and ask a few questions. Take a quick read of what you see here and tell me if it sounds academic and if there's anything wrong with it, whether it's grammar or structure or syntax, tenses, whatever it is. What do you think about this piece of text? Just take a quick look. So if you can find any fault with this text, let me know. If there's anything wrong here, any kind of comment about the language that has been used here, guys, what do you think? Yeah, okay, spoken language, yeah, that's right. So it's like conversational. Okay, can you use that? Can you use that in an assignment? Why not?
Because it's not academic.
Oh, what do you mean by it's not academic? What's wrong with it?
So in academic writing, I think we use different vocabulary.
Yeah, such as?
Yes, such as capital is a difficult thing to like.
Understand. So we probably wouldn't say difficult thing.
Yeah.
We would say concept.
Yes.
Or notion.
Yeah.
Or idea or something like that. We wouldn't say thing, right?
Exactly.
What else? Anything else that is kind of odd? Anyone else? So the question is, can you write like that in an academic essay, in your assignment?
In academic writing, I suppose we do not use like a personal pronoun, like we. It might be using like the author.
Okay, the author.
And also like for the academic writing is usually using this someone is saying this, using an evidence to back an assumption or an opinion.
Okay, so you need to back up a statement with evidence or citation or something like that. All right. Anything else, guys? Punctuation. Tell me about it.
I can tell that it's more like spoken language because it uses many commas there. Punctuation, like we can explain
kind of
it in
run
different
on like
ways. And in accounting, we can look at it from different angles.
Yeah.
Like, for example, capital is a difficult concept to understand. Yeah, understand. And we could explain it in different ways. Maybe stop.
Yeah.
In accounting,
Yeah.
it can be looked at it from different angles. Like maybe something like
Yeah, it's the syntax. And thank you. And Laila has pointed out in the chat box that there is use of contraction, isn't. We wouldn't use the word isn't, right? We would say is not. Okay, so you're all right. So is this better? Bonita, I need to go back to the slide. So I need to click on it once, otherwise this won't be activated. Yep, okay. Is this better? Considering all the comments that you've made about how it could be improved, is this better? So instead of saying capital is a difficult thing, you're saying capital is a complex notion. It's much better, isn't it? Okay, so we get it. So we can say that this is non-academic, this is academic because of these reasons. Okay, so as you all pointed out, the first one was easier, more familiar, colloquialisms, jargon, using first person, as you pointed out. Although, of course, you can use first person in academic writing as well. We can talk about that later. Imprecise word choices like thing, etc. Whereas, on the other hand, when we say capital is a complex notion instead of difficult thing, it's more formal, it uses third person, clear focus, precise word choice. Okay, we get that. However, guys, the distinction between academic and non-academic is not so straightforward. There are convergences. Just to give you a quick example, those of you doing a PhD, like Shihab here, we have something called the narrative inquiry and narrative style of writing, where your style, entire stretches of text can be conversational. and it is meant to be conversational. And in fact, that is the power of narrative inquiry and narrative writing, because that's how it is. So when it comes to a PhD, guys, a PhD is a multi-genre text. Each chapter has its own tone, style, register, etc. Whereas if you're doing a master's, your assignment will be a single genre, annotated bibliography, critical essay, lesson plan, whatever it is, okay? So multi-genre. So there is a divergence between these two. The two texts are not so clear-cut. Okay, now a little bit of history to show you how the way we think about academic writing or good academic writing has changed in the last 30 years in this country, 35 years, okay? So the 90s were called the Roaring 90s. This is also the name of a famous nonfiction work of that time. That was the time when I was doing my undergraduate, okay? It was a very different time. There was a very influential book by Ballard and Clunchy, very, very influential book published in Australia, called Teaching Students from Overseas, a brief guide for lecturers and supervisors. And this book was very influential because the authors, Ballard and Clunchy, were telling academics and supervisors at Australian universities how different international students are, why they are different, how to treat them, and how to teach them how to write in the Australian way, because they are different. Because that difference doesn't actually fit in with the expectations of Australian universities, okay? So it was a very prescriptive book, but it was highly influential at that time.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Raqib, but you were saying that the writing in Australian way.
That's right, yeah. In Australian way. So it's like when international students from Indonesia, they come to study at an Australian university. They say, no, you don't write in that way. That's roundabout. That's basa-basi. Yeah, you have to write this way, okay? So that's what this book was about. It was very influential. That's how people used to think in the 90s.
It might be related to the later time.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. So when I say Australian writing, there is no distinct way of writing in Australian as opposed to writing in other English-speaking countries, in the Anglosphere, such as the US, except for maybe spelling. I mean, colloquialisms are different, but we don't use them in academic writing anyway, okay? So other than spelling, other than mechanical issues such as citation, so they prefer MLA, we prefer APA. Although it's ironical because APA is actually from America, but in social sciences, they prefer MLA. Other than this, it's the same. When I say Australian, I mean Western style of writing. So you guys are told, no, that's the Indonesian style of writing. You come from a Confucius heritage culture. You write in a roundabout way. No, you can't do that. In Australia, this is how you write it, right? This is where it all started. Now, Ballard and Clunchy and Ballard wrote more than 10 papers that were very, very influential in the 90s. And they determined how people should write, okay? They were pointing out at the deficit way. They were looking through a deficit lens how Asian students, and notice what was on the title. It didn't say international students. It said, let's take a look. Students from overseas, okay? The word international students wasn't used much later. International students used to be called foreign students, overseas students. Foreign is a xenophobic term. It's an othering term. So we use the more inclusive term now, international students, all right? Okay. So the deficit discourses were based on racialized academic norms and the burden of assimilation. Those of you who are in my class, I've given you a good dose of assimilation, so you know what that means. It means be like us, okay? So assimilation is a very common ideology by governments all around the world. It could be cultural assimilation, it could be linguistic assimilation, because it makes the government, it makes it easier for the government to control people. It's like speak the same language, have the same values. We don't care about linguistic diversity. We don't care about heritage, minority languages. So that is assimilation. This book had an assimilationist discourse. And it had the Anglo-centric academic norms that were imposed on international students like you guys, saying, you have to write like us, okay? It was unilateral, which means that we won't learn from you. It wasn't bilateral. You will learn from us. You have to adapt to us, okay? So it was a deficit framing of students. But then in the late 90s, we had the critical turn in ELT, English language teaching. There was a big paradigm shift that happened with authors like Suresh Kanagaraja, Alistair Pennycook, Philipson, all of these, Kachru, all of these authors, they started talking about what they call the geopolitics of academic writing. They explained to us that the Western discursive hegemony or control or authority, it reinforces their values, their norms, and they make us talk like them, write like them in a unilateral way. If you don't write like us, you're not good enough. And the result of that was the denial of cultural diversity in writing, in articulation, in talking. So you guys would come to Australia, I would come from Bangladesh here, and I would be told, not directly, in a very polite way, hey, the way you write, that's not good writing. You see, I've always studied English all my life, okay? I had good writing skills when I was already here, but I was told things like, oh, that's very literary style of writing. You shouldn't use so many figurative languages. You should write in a straightforward manner. You must have topic sentences and advanced organizers. This is good writing, that is bad writing. So it was a denial of the rich writing resources, skills, experiences, styles that I brought in as a person. My agency was denied. Periphery scholarship, like scholarship from Indonesia, Vietnam, Bangladesh, risks being dismissed as local or folk knowledge. So I had to adjust myself, to adapt myself to what my lecturers were expecting me to do.
But Raqib, when we are writing in English, we should have written in English according to the grammar and the tone, right? So if you were saying like that we have our own style, and because we're talking about decolonization, which is that we are trying to be free from the influence of others. Does it mean that we should have used our own language then? So, I mean, like in this discussion, instead of in English, maybe we should have used Bahasa Indonesia and Bangla?
Yeah. So we are not talking about using more than one language as in translanguaging, which we don't do in writing, we do in speaking, right? But you mentioned two things, grammar and style, right?
Yes, yeah.
So grammar can't be compromised. I mean, grammar is important, and the grammatical rules are the same for anyone. Using a particular language, it's the same. The syntax is the same. Use of verbs is the same. Conditional, same. Everything is the same. But style can be different, and we are talking about style. So let's take a look, talking about standard academic style. Take a look at this paragraph written by an Indonesian student. And tell me if there is anything stylistic that is characteristic of Indonesian authors. Or is there anything here that tells you, yes, I think the author is not a Western writer, not an Aussie writer, must be Indonesian. Is there anything here that tells you something like this? More than one idea in one sentence, the very good idea. So trying to squeeze in more. Yeah, forget about the fact that it's about Diwantara and it's about Indonesia. That's kind of, it's a telltale sign that, oh, it must be Indonesian. But otherwise, yeah, two ideas in the same sentence, packing too much, right? So that might result in lack of clarity. What else? Maybe it is, in my experience, students respect teachers, something like that, bringing in personal experiences. Okay. So this is one. Here is the second one, written by a non-Indonesian, a Western writer on the same topic. Is this necessarily better? Just because instead of Diwantara, it's using Donier and Ushioda, who are very well-known, well-cited scholars. Is this better? qualitatively? Is this better?
It looks like that the person, like from we quote, it seems that it also matters.
Which one?
Because like in the left one, we're using these names that I suppose it is from Indonesian, but on the right we are using
No,
Indonesian
not
words.
Indonesian. Not Indonesian.
Yeah. The left one.
This one.
Yeah.
The left one, yeah.
Uh-huh. It seems like it's not Indonesian.
Not
name.
Indonesian, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I'm asking, Suchi, is do you think the text on the left is necessarily higher quality than the one written by the Indonesian author, which is on the right? Is it better? Why is it better? Which one do you think will be more acceptable to your lecturer?
The left one.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we can agree on that. But here's the thing, here's the point. What I'm saying is, if you use Diwantara, why is it kind of less acceptable? Just because people outside Indonesia may not know about Raden Mas Ki Hajar Diwantara. Why? Well, why? What makes you think like that? That's the thing.
You're digging
Okay,
your grave. You're digging your grave there.
Yeah. So no, but you're making a very important point. No, you're making a very important point. So what you're saying is that this is kind of vague. There is no page number. There's no publication. All right. So that's how your mind is becoming westernized by thinking that if I need a quote, it has to come from a journal. It has to have a year and page number. It has to have a DOI. It has to have all these mechanics that are imposed to us by the Western discourses. Exactly. That's the point. That's the point. So what's happening here is we are giving up the rich, diverse ways of writing and substantiating claims which are indigenous to our cultures. And we are adopting something that now we ourselves believe is much better because that's what our lecturers are telling us. You're sacrificing that. Okay, that's exactly the point. You're right. I mean, if you think the one on the left is better, that's because you have been told you have to write like this. So you are sacrificing your voice. So using Diwantara or using personal experiences is seen as kind of less legitimate and acceptable. Exactly. And then you have therefore at the end, which is kind of deductive style of writing. The Western standard, it doesn't, it wants you to say things up front, topic sentence first. So it's more inductive. If you write deductive, oh, that's Confucian heritage, that's Chinese, that's Asian, that's Indonesian. We have to be more critical about these things. So I'll show you another example here. And this is on the topic of plagiarism and cultural understanding. Okay, what do you think about this? Is it Western or is it non-Western? Okay, if you think this is non-Western, what about this?
It's Western because it's using like the Pennycook 1996.
Well, that's one thing, but there might be other things. But yeah, let's take a look. Tell me what you think here in this case. So using Pennycook definitely is a Western style. Yeah. Yes, yeah. Okay, yeah. So if you look at the one on the left, it starts with sentences using so and but. And your lecturers would say, don't do that, okay? But syntactically, it makes sense. We know exactly. So it's not about grammar here, guys. It's not about grammar. It's about intelligibility. That's fine. But they would discourage you to do that. So remember that. That's what I was saying. It's about style. It's not about grammar, actually. All right. So we have to move from, so since the 90s to now, we have moved from a deficit discourse to a dialogic discourse, which is no longer unilateral. It's kind of bilateral. So we learn from you, you learn from us as well. At least that's what some researchers would say. So this is the decolonial and critical pedagogical perspective and the need for institutional reflexivity which means Monash needs to adapt to and learn from the diversity that international students bring, okay? So the question is, where are we now in 2025? On one hand, we have our own voice, our own cultural discourses, our own styles of writing coming from our education systems, our countries, on one hand. On the other hand, there are still institutional norms that we have to follow if you want to get an HD, or if you don't want your supervisor to say, no, 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 you can't write like that. So where are we in 2025? Because there are these two opposing forces telling us to write in two different ways. On one hand, I'm kind of suggesting you shouldn't give up your voice. And on the other hand, there is also risk. If I still keep my voice, then that wouldn't be accepted. So what do I actually do? Where do I stand? So this is Nova Ariani, who was my master student in this faculty in I think she graduated in 2016 or 17, and she is about to finish her PhD from Auckland University in New Zealand, across the pond. Nova wrote a paper in 2019 called Challenges in Presenting Academic Criticism, Case Study of Indonesian Students. And if you look at the beginning of the abstract, she mentions presenting academic criticism, so being critical. She identifies that as the biggest problem based on a case study of Indonesian students who write in Australian universities. And if you look at the last sentence, I'll just go back here. You can't read it, so I'll read it out for you. All of these have manifested to their struggle, Indonesian international students studying in Australia, of presenting academic criticism and writing according to expected dominant discourse in Australia. That's what I was talking about. Okay, so this is from 2019, and I sent a photo to Nova saying, I'm going to cite your article tomorrow. Anyway, so recent research has actually identified the challenges international students in Australia face when it comes to academic writing. Now, if you look at these 5 points here, you will see that some of these are actually not confined to international students. These are common problems experienced by a lot of local students as well, native speakers of English. So guys, I'm not talking about grammar, I'm not talking about vocabulary, I'm talking about some of these things like plagiarism, integrity, academic writing exposure, writing anxiety, language proficiency. Believe me, local students have these problems as well. But when it comes to international students, we have another set of problems. You know, lack of critical thinking. That is actually much bigger than the style differences. Cultural dissonance. Now, cultural dissonance isn't necessarily a bad thing. It just means that the way you are attuned culturally doesn't align with the way you are expected to be attuned in Australia. So there is a dissonance there, poor drafting and weak structure. So my presentation would focus on these 4 things, especially on criticality, okay? Now, in high school, in undergraduate, it stops here. If you look at the 6 verbs at the bottom of this image, those of you familiar with Bloom's taxonomy would know that they are from Bloom's taxonomy. Bloom's taxonomy is a hierarchy of 6 levels of cognitive increase, from LOTS, L-O-T-S, lower order thinking skills, to HOTS, H-O-T-S, higher order thinking skills. Benjamin Bloom, 1956, okay? So that shows how you can progressively increase the cognitive demand of thinking, writing, doing tasks, assessments, responses, all of these things from lower to order, to higher order. The way writing is taught, even in this country, it usually stops by analyzing. You analyze something, that's it. We don't move beyond to evaluation and the creation of something. We only do it when we are doing a PhD, or sometimes a master's degree or master's thesis. It just stops there. That's the problem. So there are 2 types of writing. You have the egocentric writing, which is the lower order writing. And then on the right-hand side, you have critical thinking, higher order writing. So when I say that criticality is the biggest challenge in writing academically, or bringing in your, what was the subtitle? the languages within, right? The languages within. We are not talking about grammar. We are not talking about vocabulary. We are not talking about syntax. We are talking about criticality. That's what makes the difference between high quality writing, low quality writing. Don't blame yourself for writing in an Indonesian style. That is a good thing. That's not a bad thing. Don't sacrifice that. How we can improve our writing is by increasing our criticality, among a few other things. Okay. However, there are obstacles to critical thinking, and I'll talk about these 4 obstacles. They prevent us from being critical. It's not your vocabulary that prevents you from being critical. It's not your language. It's not your pronunciation. It's not the fact that you're Indonesian. It's not the fact that English is your 3rd or 4th language. You're not a native speaker of English. These are not the problems why you are not being able to be critical. You think in your own way, you can be critical. These are some of the things that prevent us, stop us from being critical. Let's take a look at each of these. Xenophobia, what is xenophobia, guys? You know it probably. It's the fear of the unknown, right? So you don't know something, you fear it. A lot of people, they are not in favor of Palestine, for example. They are against Palestine. It's not because they know about Palestine and they don't want to, it's simply because they don't know about Palestine. They don't know the fate of people in Gaza. So that's xenophobia. It's ignorance. It is avoiding something or not liking something or disliking something or hating something, not because you have a strong reason to hate or dislike them, but because you just don't know about them. So fear of disliking, fear of the unknown. How does that affect your critical writing? You uncritically reject perspectives on knowledge because you think that is non-Western, that is, from a different culture, that is from a different society. And it prevents engagement with theories that are culturally diverse. It makes you essentialize or stereotype things, like this is good, this is bad, there is no gray area. You choose your ideological point and you say, for me, that is forever bad. Everyone who's from that community is bad. There is no exception. You stereotype. And it impedes the recognition of colonial or Eurocentric biases, which means it makes you almost feel ashamed that you're Indonesian. And it makes you feel ashamed that, I'm writing a particular way. Oh, that's because I'm Indonesian. And that is a pity. You shouldn't be feeling like that. You should be proud of your heritage, your cultural heritage, your rich linguistic style. Second, ethnocentrism. It's very common. What is ethnocentrism? It's the way where we judge other people, other cultures, other values, other practices by the standards of our own culture. So just to give you a very plain example, Indonesians and Bangladeshis, where we come from, how do we eat? We use our hands, right? Bare hands. We love it because food tastes much better. Now, yeah, that's what I do. That's what we do, right? Okay. What would someone from China think about it? They would think, oh, it's so odd. They use their hands to eat. And what would you guys think about people eating rice with 2 sticks? Chopsticks, really hard. But you'll also say, oh, why do you have to do that? Why don't you just use a spoon? Or your fingers, right? That is ethnocentrism, okay? That's a very harmless example of ethnocentrism. Nothing wrong with that. We do that all the time. Human beings are genetically engineered to be ethnocentric. Every country's national anthem is ethnocentric, okay? But we have to move beyond that. If you think your country, your culture, your language is the best in the world, maybe that's a form of patriotism. But can you go beyond that to see some of the things that are probably not? That is ethnocentrism. How does that affect your criticality when it comes to writing? It produces narrow interpretations of educational issues because you only see it through the lens of your country, your culture, your community. It limits critical reflection because you fail to or you refuse to go beyond your own familiar zone. You just interpret it in terms of you. You don't see that, in a different culture, in a different religion, in a different community, there might be a different set of issues. We refuse to see that, okay? Number 3, confirmation bias. This is actually probably the biggest problem preventing us from being critical. Confirmation bias in plain language is simply, you see what you want to see, you hear what you want to hear. On the other hand, you don't see what you don't want to see. You don't hear what you don't want to hear. So an example would be if you open your Instagram app and if you click on the search button and if you see all cat videos, it means you like cats because you've been clicking cat videos, you've been liking cat videos, you've been searching cat videos, so you only see cats. You don't see dogs. If you are a Messi fan, like me, you will only see Messi. You won't see Ronaldo in your video feed. Okay? You will not even see the most beautiful goals scored by Messi. You will only see the most beautiful goals scored by Ronaldo. You will only see those by Messi. And what you will see will confirm your bias that Messi is the GOAT. Ronaldo is not the GOAT because you asked for it.
Can you also give some examples like on for the K-pop group bias?
Yeah, I think that's true. Why, any K-pop fans here? Okay, what's your favorite group? Okay, so you watch a lot of BTS. Who's the rival of BTS?
Don't answer
You don't
that.
even know. You don't care. Maybe they even have a video which is much better than BTS, but you don't search for it.
Oh, that's
You don't want
hot
to
take.
see it. You don't see it. You see? There you go. All right. So that's confirmation bias. So if you look at the image, you have your own beliefs, which is on the right side. And then on the other hand, there are facts and evidence to the contrary, which you don't see. But only the facts and evidence that aligns with your belief, you take that, you don't take the other ones. That's why we still have flat earthers. We have people who believe the earth is flat. We have people that believe that Elvis Presley is still alive, conspiracy theorists, okay? You have plenty of evidence from them, but because they are just only cherry picking what they want. So this is what happens with confirmation bias when it comes to your writing, guys, okay? So you're writing, let's say, a critical review on, and forgive me, guys, I'll pick examples from education because I know there are those of you from other faculties as well. You're writing an essay on the benefits of TBLT, task-based language teaching, right? Okay. So you're only looking for benefits. You will only find benefits. Now, there are papers that talk about why TBLT doesn't fit within certain countries, certain cultures. You're not looking for that. You're avoiding it. And for PhD students, especially, if they come across an article that says the opposite of the argument they are trying to establish, they will either pretend not to have seen it, like I haven't seen it, or they will read it, but they will ignore it. They wouldn't bring it in their lit review. Why? Because I have already written 10,000 words, very nice literature review, problematizing how TBLT is the best thing in the world. And now if I bring this article which says things that are opposite, it will kind of ruin the fabric of my argument, and then I'll have to make a lot of changes. So I'll let my supervisor think that I haven't read that. It's like I pretend it's not there. Confirmation bias, okay?
Do you agree that PhD students?
Yeah. Do you do that? Okay, so that's when your supervisor would say, no, read this. Yeah, and then you say, oh, sorry, I forgot to read that. Okay, so cherry picking of literature. So we take sides. There is evidence. If we don't like the evidence, we don't want to see it. We pretend it doesn't exist, okay? So that also prevents us from being critical. Guys, remember the topic we are talking about is the quality of academic writing, your voice agency. We are talking about languages within languages. Most importantly, we are talking about what makes good quality academic writing without sacrificing your own agency and your culture, and without 100% aligning with the expectations of the institution. Okay, the last one is cognitive dissonance. So we had confirmation bias, ethnocentrism, xenophobia. Now we have cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is another psychological construct. It means that there is a discrepancy between your beliefs and your action. So you believe in something, but you do the opposite. You know that smoking is bad for you. You believe in that 100%. No one needs to convince you, but you still smoke. And you try to convince yourself, oh, but I'm still young. I'll give up when I'm 30. Or, oh, but I do exercise. It should be all right, okay? Or cognitive dissonance could be, in the academic way, it might be, similar to confirmation bias. You might actually see an argument which is opposed to what you're believing, but you will kind of say, no, that doesn't apply to me because I'm from Indonesia, so I won't use that. So cognitive dissonance is the technique where your logic and your way of thinking is kind of justified illogically because of any other reason, which is you need to convince the reader of something that you actually don't believe in. It discourages exploration of difficult or unsettling truths, and it results in defensive writing. Defensive writing is a big problem with master students and especially with PhD students, where it looks like, yes, you are trying to establish an argument, but instead of being proactive and instead of being confident, you are seeing it from the negative point of view. So instead of saying something is good, you're saying something else is bad, and therefore, by implication, this is good. There is actually a term for it. It's called hypothetical deductivism. Hypothetical deductivism, which is a logical fallacy. Okay, and as supervisors and lecturers, we can detect the mechanisms that make your writing defensive, and that compromises the criticality and the quality of your writing. Again, this has nothing to do with grammar, but it has something to do with where you come from, the kind of writing style that is indigenous to your first language, etc. Now, guys, you also have heard about the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, have you? Does anyone know about the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis? Okay, let me write it down here. Can I use the whiteboard, Suchi?
Yes, please.
Yeah, okay, because it's interesting and maybe you can search it later on. So Bonita, maybe you can type that in the chat box for those who are online. The Sapir-Whorf hypothesis says that the language or languages that you use or speak or read and write have oracy or literacy in. That language determines how you think, including your criticality. So what does that mean? It means like, for example, in English, we write from the left to the right, the directionality of writing. In Arabic, it's from the left. And then Chinese from top to bottom, things like that. So that's one aspect. That's a structural issue of. And then the syntax of a language. So in English, we say, I eat rice, okay? So subject, verb, object. But in some languages, the verb comes at the end. How do you say it in Bahasa Indonesia? Is it this or this? The first one, just like English. But in Japanese, you would use this. This is the syntactic difference, right? So the syntactics, the directionality, the orthography of a language will determine how you think about the world. So because you speak Bahasa and Bahasa has certain unique structural qualities, you will think in a certain way. And that would be reflected in how you process criticality in your writing. How you process your writing, okay? It's not your fault, it's your language. However, remember, you guys also speak English. So Sapir-Whorf hypothesis also says that the more languages you know, if you're bilingual, trilingual, you're all trilingual, you have your local language, you have Indonesian, you have English, at least 3 languages. Most of you here would speak 3 languages, maybe 4 or 5. The more languages you speak, the more ways you know how to process this. So that's in my bilingualism unit. Some of you are in my classes, you know that The more languages you know, the more ways you can express yourself and get rid of defensive writing or things like that. So this was the fourth one. Do you have any questions about these four? Xenophobia, ethnocentrism, cognitive dissonance. What was the other one? Confirmation bias. Any questions? Then we can move forward. Any questions, or does anyone want to just make a comment or give me an example?
Yeah, yes, Kak Garneta.
Thank you. So actually, I want to ask regarding the previous slides. Will that be okay?
Let's go back.
When we are comparing between the Indonesian and non-Indonesian style, the Dewantara.
Okay, that one is, yeah, just ask me. Yeah, that's fine. That's okay.
Actually, in my opinion, as an Indonesian, I feel this kind of insecurity when I wrote in my style as an Indonesian people with that kind of sincerity, like using personal experience, right?
Yeah.
But when we comparing the left and right, I don't know, maybe it's not objective, but what I think the left part, it is more coherence. It has more clarity and it has more depth because it uses this kind of pedagogical.
Yeah.
I mean, like in Indonesian people, as far as I know, we're not familiar with that kind of pedagogical. If we know pedagogical, means we also know the demagogical word. But to my knowledge, we are not familiar with that.
Yeah.
So my question is, how do we have this kind of ability, keeping our character as Indonesian writer, but we have the same quality. I mean, the quality is like depth, coherence, and so forth. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Neta, is it? Okay, so I'll answer that later. I have it in my slide. So kind of a balance between two, your own style, Western style. So instead of compromising, balance, right? So we'll talk about that, okay? It's there. Very good question. And it means that you're following very carefully because, it's there. So I've thought about it. Thank you. Great. Okay, so so moving on. Yeah, please. Yeah.
Thank you. So for the right side writing, is it also still acceptable when we don't mention any, like time reference, the year reference? Because like in the left side, we see that
There is a year.
There is a year.
Sometimes page number. Okay. Yeah, good question. Okay. That's a very good question, actually. All right. Okay. Now, you have to remember that the whole idea of putting the page number, if it's a direct quote, or the year with a publication, is based on the assumption that any citation is, first of all, it is published. Secondly, it is available with a DOI or something. And thirdly, it comes in a particular format which has a year and a page number, etc. So that's the assumption that we make. However, what about oral traditions? What about Dewantara or Confucius or Plato, who don't have page numbers and etc.? And these are all historical archives. These are all, how about an inscription from a hieroglyphic in a pyramid where you have a reference to the sun god Ra Orkon or something like that, or something to Pharaoh or something like that? How would you quote that? Does it mean that just because it is not published in an established format, the modern journal article, we can't use it? Confucius didn't have page numbers. And we don't have specific years for Confucius either. For Dewantara, we do have, yes. So, you can quote Dewantara's System Among. There is a quote for that. You'll find it in written detail. Ing arso song tulodo, ing madya mangun karso, tutwuri handayani. You can quote that, but if it is from somewhere else, if it is from an oral tradition, you don't have that. Does that invalidate the legitimacy of that quote? It doesn't. So that's how we have to compromise the Western canon and the Western expectation, which says it has to have this, otherwise we don't accept it. And if it's from the oral tradition, if it's from literature, If it's from music, if it's from an unpublished form of citation, we don't accept it. That's what we have to understand. So if you use a quote from Diwantara or someone else from a long time ago, from Majapahit or someone from Indonesia, there is no written quote. If your lecturer says anything about that, fight against it, fight for it. Just say that just because it's not published, it's not acceptable. Why? That's a very well-known citation in my culture, in my country, and I value it, and it's unique. You have to fight back. That's the decolonial approach of pushing back. There is a term for it. It's called epistemic disobedience. All right? You're pushing back at the philosophical level. It's a disobedience, an act of disobedience.
A gentle reminder, Raqib, that we have 15 minutes left for
so I
the
better
session.
rush.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Suchi, because I actually want the Q&A to be not very rushed and so that everyone can ask questions.
Yes.
Okay, but thank you for your question. That's a very good question. It's like, why is it less legitimate? It's because we are thinking in that way. Not everything is published. Not everything has a year number. And yet it has a lot of value for us. Okay, all right. So remember these two things, criticality in reading and writing. Reading doesn't mean retrieval of information. It means construction of knowledge. Something happens in your head. We don't just read something and then regurgitate it. In the same way, writing doesn't just mean conveying information. It's also construction of knowledge. So if you see it that way, this will allow you the dialogic space to accommodate Indonesian perspectives that don't fit in with the strict expectations, institutional expectations of a university in Australia. Okay, so critical thinking and critical reading must precede critical writing, which means you can't write critically without thinking and reading critically first. So critical reading means thinking about text as something that has been constructed by a person who is a mind, and that mind, it has its own ideologies, political views, and all of that. And on the other hand, as a reader, you also have biases and prejudices and all of that. So if you see that, it allows you the dialogic space to argue. So on one hand, we have descriptive writing, which is something that we do very well sometimes. Not a question of grammar, vocabulary, whatever, but it is not critical enough because it lacks these things. These are some of the things that it lacks, and we don't understand that. And so you question yourself, my English is really good. I haven't made any grammatical mistakes. I have a very good vocabulary. Why is my lecturer saying I need to improve my classes or attend workshops on language? Well, it's not because of the mechanics of writing. It's not because of grammar. It's because of this, okay? When you write something, there is a mix of critical and descriptive writing. You can't be entirely critical or entirely descriptive. You have to mix both, and you have to see how they fit in. Now, someone was talking about balance. Who was it? Someone asked me about, and I said I'll talk about it. Yeah, Neta. So here is what I said I'll talk about. So you probably anticipated that as well. So what does balance mean? On one hand, we don't want to give up our own style of writing, which may be Asian, Indonesian, and non-Western. On the other hand, we don't want to say, I don't care about APA, I don't care about Monash, I am me, I'm Indonesian, I'll write in my own way. We can't do that. If you do that, you won't get an HD, you'll probably get a P or a C, okay? So that's one thing. And then again, on one hand, we don't want to be just descriptive, we need to be critical. But on the other hand, we don't want to be so critical that, it's like we are overdoing it. Okay, so there is a balance between both of these things. So here is an example of exaggerated critical language. So don't be fired up by my presentation and say, okay, from now on I'll just be critical the hell out of it. No, please. Don't do that.
Definitely for the PhD students.
We need to be careful. So
Yeah.
I don't want to have fired you up so much that you'll be kind of too critical. So take a look at the highlighted sections, which shows examples of what happens when you're too critical. That's not good. We need balance. So when you say absolutely essential, completely inadequate, crucial moment, urgent, necessary, most important, well, most importantly is okay when you have 2 or 3 things. But balance is important, guys. Okay, so this is the last part of my presentation. Hopefully I'll finish in about 10 minutes. I said that the presentation is not about mechanics, but I will still give you a few. It's just like a checklist of things that you need to be careful about to improve the quality of your writing. Again, it's not about grammar. It's really about the quality of your writing, okay? So when we read, these are the questions that we ask. I'm talking about social sciences. This might not make sense to you if you're in engineering or if you're doing STEM sciences. But there are 2 questions that we usually avoid. One is this, and the other one is this. So we have to take a decolonial approach and say, what are the political ideologies or standpoints that have made the author or authors say this thing? And secondly, what are the origins of the definition? Are they all Eurocentric definitions? Is there a different way of understanding, let's say, metacognition in Indonesia? Okay, use that. Why not? Okay. Referencing, you can't say that. You have to say something like this. Specific, okay? We know that. But when it comes to referencing, there are 2 things I wanted to point out. Okay, don't just put references. There are 2 things. What about this? Read this, and compare it with this. It's 100% the same thing, but there is a big difference. What's the difference?
It seems that the first one, it's more kind of like personal. Byron has expressed concern. I mean, has expressed concern. It seems like we're having a dialogue there. Has expressed something is like, it tells me kind of like a direct, but for the second one, it's definitely a citation.
Well, I get your point. Both of them are citations, though.
Definitely, sorry.
In the first one, the emphasis is on the author. In the second one, it's not the author. It's what the author says. That's more important. Okay. Which one is better? Exactly. It's not which one is better. Both of them are good.
Did she get an HD for that?
Yes, you'll get an HD, absolutely. So let me ask you a question. When is the first one better and when is the second one better? Because you're right, both of them, you can't say one is better than the other. Yeah. So let me give you a hint, okay? Which one is better to put in an introduction? Which one? Yeah. Yes, exactly. Another HD for you. That's an HD. Okay. So so that's the difference, all right? It's not which one is better. It's about how you use it. If you're writing an introduction is about general things, right? The second one is more general. The idea is main, it's not Byron. But later on, in the body of the paragraph, when we talk about differences of opinions and ideas, that's when we can focus on Byron and someone else. So we put on the author prominent one later, but in the introduction, the second one would fit better. So that's one thing. Here's the second thing. It's called chunking. If you read this article, you will see that the author has not only read several articles, but they have also chunked them based on 2 main groups of articles, one focusing on external reasons, another focusing on internal reasons. I won't explain this because I don't have enough time, but it would be very easy for you to understand if you get the topic. All right, take a look at this sentence here. Overuse of jargon and complete sentences. Some PhD students love doing that. Not Shihab, but some others do that. It's not a good thing. Don't try to sound very important and kind of knowledgeable. That usually doesn't go in your favor. Here is another one, lack of cohesion between sentences. Instead of saying in the literature review, we saw this, next we do this, you can say this. You can just join the two sentences much better. Okay, very, very important. Next, inconsistent use of academic tone. We believe that students in this study got a lot out of the group work, which was really cool and super effective in helping them engage. I'm sure no one does that, but we don't say super cool, got a lot out of colloquialism. We don't do that. Instead, we say something like this. Okay? All right. A few other things. Look at the last two, hedging, okay? Let's take a look at hedging. This is hedging. Instead of saying, it has therefore been proved that, you should say, it is possible that, it appears that. This is called hedging. It's very important. This is something that is not common in some languages, but in English, it's very important. Okay, I'll go back, take a photo. All right, by the way, the PowerPoint slides, Suchi has a copy of it. How much did we agree on? $100 for each?
No, 150.
$150, yeah. Credit card only. So for $150, you'll get a copy of the presentation. No, she has got a copy of it. You can ask for it. All right, and then finally, I will finish my presentation with a technique that I have used very successfully with my PhD students. It's called the annotated map. This is how we do it. Whatever your piece of writing, whether it's a literature review, whether it's a critical essay, whether it's a methodology chapter, whether it's, whatever it is, journal article, you draw a table with two columns. On the left-hand column, you have just one thing, the title and the subtitle and the sub-subtitle of the sections and sub-subsections, sub-sub-subsections, etc. That's it. On the right-hand side, you write a short description of what you will be doing there. That's the annotated table, annotated map. And then you send it to your friend, your critical friend, your supervisor, your lecturer, and then they annotate the annotated map. They annotate the annotated map, which will look like this. So this is me commenting on my PhD student's annotated map for an article even before she started writing it. Believe me, if you do this, the writing becomes so much easier.
It seems that Pak Shihab is actually having a PTSD over there.
Yeah.
Looking at the comments, giving flashbacks.
Okay, so try the goosebumps, yeah. Try the annotated map, it might work, okay? So the big question is, okay, so I'm finishing here in 2 minutes. Suchi.
Yes, please.
How can Indonesian students write institutionally accepted norms of high quality English without sacrificing their cultural identity or loss of unique academic tone? So that's why I was talking about balance, okay? You have to get rid of these 4 things, okay? So practice reflexivity, positionality, by voicing them with confidence and talking to your supervisors, talking to your lecturers, and not kind of feeling ashamed or inadequate about it. Engage with plural knowledges. Otherwise, you're being ethnocentric. There are other ways of knowing as well. Cultivate intellectual humility, which means accept that you might actually be wrong. It might be that something you deeply, deeply believe in actually is not true. There is a better way. So just be open to that. That's how we get rid of all of these things, all right? And my last words of advice, I don't think I need to read them, but there are plenty of workshops at Monash, academic writing workshops, workshops on voice and agency and all of that. Make use of all of these things so that you can just continue improving. And finally, success is not assimilation. Assimilation means just being like someone else, like everyone thinking one. You have to, don't sacrifice your individuality. Thriving academically doesn't mean abandoning your values, your Indonesian writing style values. It means navigating and reshaping the system with awareness and purpose. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Raqib. That was such an amazing presentation and discussion. It was such a delight. So now we have the Q&A session. Any questions that you guys would like to ask? Okay, so we have these two gentlemen over here. Could you please tell us your real name? Not your stage name, please.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. My name is Gibraltar. Gibraltar. Okay. So thank you very much, Mr. Raqib, for the enlightening session. My question is still the same with the other two people before me, which is regarding the Ki Hajar Dewantara's writing on the right. On the right-hand side, I didn't see any citation, and I think we can improve on that, because when we say assimilation, I think we can assimilate to be better, not assimilate just to show our individualities, right? So I think having citation is helping, and it should not be abandoned, because that is the Western style. When you say, how about the oral traditions, like the Greek philosophers like Aristotle or Socrates? Even those things, we need some sources from them, right? How can we know that Socrates exists? We know because the writings of his students, right? Even though Socrates never wrote anything himself. How about Confucius? Yes. How about Confucius, which doesn't have any like journal published? We know about him from the historians, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So if we just accept all references from all people, we are not being critical, right? I think there is a funny story about the inventor of electrical toaster. So in 2012, there was some students of university in UK, if I'm not mistaken. They created a hoax in Wikipedia that the electrical toaster inventor was named Alex McMaster, I think, and it was widely circulated. So many people believe that he was the inventor, but actually it is not. So it's a fun thing when we don't use critical citation as source. Maybe my point is, how can we integrate that kind of individualism, not individualism, our points, our individual points into the Western good things. Just taking the good things.
Okay, thank you, Gibraltar. So what he's saying is that just because something is published doesn't mean it's true, such as the electric toaster hoax on Wikipedia. It is just made up. On the other hand, just because something is not published in written form doesn't mean it's not valid. So we have to see both ways, okay? So how do you reconcile that? You have to establish if you're doing, especially if you're doing thesis, you have a section called methodology, or if you're writing a journal paper, you have methodology. In that methodology, you have to make it clear that some of the sources of the theories and concepts and frameworks are coming from indigenous knowledges, and some of these are not published. Some of these are not published in the Western way anyway. They come from oral traditions, they come from literature. It could be Ramayana as well, not just Confucius, right? It could be, that's fine. Oral traditions. As you said, Socrates had nothing written. Socrates' student was Plato, and Plato's student was Aristotle. And then some of these verbal traditions got more into writing and all of that, and that's how we follow them. So you have to establish in your methodology that some of these sources are from the oral tradition and all of that. In other words, you have to be clear that not everything that is not cited means that it is not invalid. You have to just make it clear. And especially at the PhD level, you have more agency and I guess more license to use such, we call it, there is a more recent term for it. We call it NTRO, non-traditional research output. Although that's not research. It could be if it's a quote from Plato, that's not research, but it falls within the category of NTRO. Non-traditional research output means that any output that is in a form or in a genre outside what is traditionally accepted, journal article, book chapter or book, can fall into that category. So you have to actually say that some of these are well-established canons of knowledge that are highly valued in Indonesian society, but they are not published. Therefore, there is no citation. That's okay. You just explain it. Thank you, Gibraltar.
Another question? Yes, please.
You can also share your experiences or give comments, not just questions, if you want.
Hi, Raqib. Selamat pagi. Good morning. So my name is Dona. Yeah, same faculty like Sihab. My first year's in PhD. Actually, I have a comments and also question at the end. I come to this event because like the topic is related and with what currently I'm facing. Like as a background, we all of us coming from different academic setting to another settings, and until we coming here. So I first coming from philosophy background in undergrad, but in Indonesia, and then my master taking in Monash as well, which exactly like you said before coming here, we got trained by UK persons. This is how you need to write things. Yeah. And then when I finished my master, another academic environment, which is research organizations, but Western based, which sometimes we need to, of course, there are sometimes it's driven by agenda, but there are a time when like, let's make this report more English.
Yeah.
Like it's not about our Indonesian English, make it more English. And then when I came here again, the first thing my supervisor said is, let's put another hat in your hat for PhD, which what you said. I mean, like, it's glad that my supervisors is not pushing mechanic writing, but more into mentality in writing, like you said, like being critical and things. And the things that I'm still working out is like the confirmation bias.
Yeah,
Like,
confirmation bias
yeah.
is it's very common for PhD students
Yeah.
like you, Donna. Very common.
And now I try to intentionally looking for the other voice that opposite that.
Yeah.
Even though
that's very good.
yeah, even
It
though like
makes your life very difficult,
yes.
but it results in higher quality research.
Yeah. Yeah, like intentionally looking for the other voice that not match with your belief.
I'm glad you realized that in your first year, because Shihab is in his final. If he does that now, life will be too difficult for him. He's like, I don't care anymore. Yeah, I've had enough. Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah, and glad like I think that's why every supervisors is the supervisors. They never complain about how I express think in my English. They're just concerned about how I think. And my question is, in your 25 years experience as international students, which connected with us, like, is there any typical thing like from non-English speakers country students that tend to, it's not about right or wrong, but what the things that sometimes makes you like, this is not like when you read something like you say, you know, this is not people from English speaking country.
Yeah.
But what the common thing that you see that you can do better than this? I mean like it's not about the writing, but the way they think like you can do better than this.
I think there are several things. So if you read Nova Ariani's article, she identified some of this. So yes. So let's say if as a supervisor I'm reading, or as a teacher I'm reading someone's response without knowing where they're from, sometimes I can make a pretty good guesswork about which country they're from, or, you know, whether they're from Asia or whether it's a local student who has studied in an Australian school, One of them is the roundabout way of writing. And once again, I just want to make it clear, roundabout writing is not necessarily bad writing. That's a distinct genre. And in some genres, in some contexts, that is actually more appropriate. But it could also be use of vocabulary. Now, you might think that it's the opposite. So non-native speakers of English, international students, would use a simpler vocabulary. No, sometimes it's the opposite. Sometimes they use words that local students wouldn't use. Because non-native speakers of English quite often have a higher vocabulary than native speakers because they learn it in a different way. They don't memorize, they don't do the grammar translation method, they don't memorize lists of vocabulary, especially those preparing for IELTS and all of that. And I've been an IELTS speaking examiner for 15 years, I know that. In the vocabulary category for speaking, native speakers get lower score than non-natives very often. So it could be the roundabout way of talking, it could be the vocabulary, things like that would tell me that it's probably a non-native speaker. But here's the thing, you don't need to, the whole point of my presentation is you don't need to comply 100% with the institutional requirements of what it means to be a good essay or a literature review, because this has changed a lot in the last 25 years. In this faculty, it has changed a lot. Let's say, we are more tolerant towards diversity. We are more tolerant towards things like citations from Divantara or Ramayana or Confucius than we used to be 20 years ago in this faculty.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Raqib.
So hold your ground.
We have 5 more minutes because usually in Monash we take like 15 minutes before the class starts. And there is a class starting at 12, so we have still 5 more minutes. But allow me a question, Raqib, because there's like someone here, Kak Fitra. So he is actually asking about if you please briefly give some impactful words that it's because that there are undergraduate students and they are unpolished gems. Do you have any tips for their academic future?
All right, Fitra. First of all, undergraduate students are unpolished gems, which means they are already gems. They just need to be polished. That's it. Exactly. They are already gems. What a beautiful metaphor. What a beautiful metaphor. So to all undergraduate S1 students out there, my very quick tip would be don't feel shy or hesitant to be yourself and to push forward your identity, not just in your writing, but in your oral presentations, in weekly activities or whatever you have, tutorials, because you're undergraduate students. And, at Monash, generally the academic community, lecturers, we respect mutual learning. And we don't hesitate to tell our students that you make us better educators because we learn from you. Now, a lot of students, international students, they actually don't know that. We actually respect learning from you. So don't be shy. And just in the name of being compliant, just for the pursuit of getting a higher degree, don't sacrifice your originality. Try to be yourself. So yes, learn what good academic writing is, but don't hesitate to be yourself and to bring in something unique that is yourself from your own studies. So that's my advice for you, Fitra, and to all undergraduate students. Thank you.
So to recap is to join Monash University. No, that's definitely not the direction that we're going. Okay, so I suppose that we would like to have even a more in-depth discussion. It has been a delight, everyone, for joining in here. However, we need to cut it short. Unless that you want to have a protest to the Monash? No, no. No, we have another class and we cannot cut it short. Okay, so thank you again, everyone, for coming. Not only for the one that is in the classroom, but also for the one that is in the Zoom. Hi, thank you. We would love to see you again in the next event. We hope to see you guys in the future, and there might be the survey form that we might give you at the end of the session. But if you can just like scan it now. So if you have any feedback, let's say that maybe you want more food, or maybe that you say we need more what is it we need more hosts that can facilitate any of the topic that you want, feel free to put it in there. So again, thank you for your time. Thank you for your present in here. And of course, for Raqib, thank you very much for the session for today. It's definitely what I would like to say is that you already have the platform and the tool to spread the word, but make sure that you use it in your own voice because it will not dismiss anything, rather, it will enrich the world even more. Okay, so I suppose everyone will be more braver in voicing out their voices. Thank you very much. And I'm so sorry for everything that have been. There might be some mistakes or something that the jokes might offend you. So we would love to see you again in another future. Take care on your way and bye.
Thank you, Kak Suci. Thank you, Raqib.